Welcome back, CSC 121, to exercise 4 test scores. And this will be 4B, and this will be part 2 of the video, but we're actually going to make a rappel called 4B test scores, just so it's a little different, just so we can start making changes, and we're not constantly making it to the same rappel, and we're kind of building on it. So what we're going to do here is try to get a little more efficient, because this is not efficient. Working like this and adding PP5, PP6, EP6, and then adding them all down here is not very efficient. So what we're going to try to do is do something that's actually a counter. We'll try to count these up as we go. So we're basically going to almost reassign a variable as we go. So we're going to kind of add to the total as we go. So we're actually going to define a total up top, and then at the end it'll still kind of total it up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of these things, but what we'll do first is go and fork your exercise, your 4A. We'll fork it, and I'm going to call it 4B, and I'll call it Testscores Counter, because we're going to put in a counter. And that will identify it a little bit better. So we'll call it 4B Testscores Counter, and I'll fork it. Okay, so now we have a new one. We still have the old one the way it was. And I'm going to get rid of all these numbers because this is very efficient, and it's only going to create errors as we go, changing all these variables. So we're going to use one variable for possible points and one variable for earned points, if that makes sense. And we're just going to kind of add to them as we go. Now, this isn't going to output a separate percentage for each thing, but that's not what we were doing anyway. And then we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of all these. Not efficient. Not efficient. And we're actually going to start them at 0. And I'll go here and I'll start them at 0. And what we'll do is we'll start them at 0 before we add anything up. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to put it up at the top and declare these variables right here. So they're starting at 0, so they're getting a starting point. And if you'd want to do something like this, but if you'd want to put any kind of comment in here that indicates that these are the totals, and I'll just put starting totals down here. So that's kind of giving us all the information we need. So we're going to start at 0 and start building up. Now what we're going to do is, after this, we're going to add to each one. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put it here. And what's going to happen is, what we're going to do is we're going to add to the total. We're going to add PP to the PP total, and then we're going to add EP to the EP total, if that makes any sense. So we're going to start tallying it up. So it starts at 0, but then what's going to happen here, we're going to add it to the 0. So we want to indicate itself first. So we'll put PP underscore tot, and we'll put plus PP. So we're taking itself, we're not going to make it equal PP, because that would almost reassign it to PP. But we want to add it to itself so that its tally keeps adding it up. So we're going to keep adding it to itself. And we're going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to put EP tot plus EP. So that makes it add to itself. So that's adding it to the original one as we go. So it's not reassigning, because otherwise it would just be reassigning it to whatever PP was here. So that way it's going to keep adding it each time. So, and that'll keep building up the totals. So the totals will move on with a higher number and keep adding that higher number each time, if that makes sense. So let's kind of look at this and see what's going to happen. We're going to add PP. We're going to put in PP. And let's get rid of this one down here, because that's reassigning to 0. We don't want this down here. And this will stay the same. Let's do 2 of them and just see what happens. And I don't want 5 right now. Let me get rid of 5. We don't need 5 right now. We could always add one in because it'll be easier. Yeah, let's add this. Let's delete this 5th one here, and we'll just have 4. And let's just add them up for the first 2 and just see what happens. Actually, let's just get rid of this. Let's just do 2 and see what happens, just so we could see it being added together. And then we could always add more, because they all say the same thing. So let's just run this, see what happens. Okay, possible points, let's do 10. And you got a 9. And then the next one, possible points, 10, and we'll get an 8. Now, if we had a 9 and an 8, a 90 and an 80, that should be an 85. That's what it should come out to. So let's see if that works. Let's see if our total works. So that'll say that this is working. And we got an 85. And if you wanted to print out PP total and EP total, you could see it. You could even go down here. If you just wanted to check it, we could just go down here and say print EP tot and print PP tot. And that'll just indicate if we're doing it right. So let's just try it again. It's just a way of testing it. So 10, 9, and then 10, 8 should come out to an 85. And our totals should be 20 and 17. Let's see if that works. And that's right. We have, I should have put the PP first, but anyway, we have 20 and 17 and it's 85. So that's working. So this is like a little test you can do down here. Then you could get rid of it. You could comment it out. You could always highlight these and do command question mark and comment them out, but at least you could kind of test what's going on just to make sure if the numbers start to get real high and you're not sure what's going on. But maybe I'll even undo that and I'll switch these around so that they go like the other one. So I have PP first and then EP. So it's working. So this is working. So again, what's happening here, let's just go through and see what happens here. Okay, so I'm going to enter 10. Okay, so PP now is 10. So let's go through this and actually see what's going to happen. Just let's look at one, and I'll change this. But what's going to happen here when we go through this, when I enter 10, okay, PP is now going to be 10. So this is going to be 10. So that means this is going to be 10. And PP total is basically 0. So this is basically PP is 0 plus 10, and EP is going to be 0 plus 9 because we entered 9. And then what's going to happen here the next time? Well, it's going to be PP is going to be 10. So this is going to be 10. And EP is going to be 8. And what's going to happen here? Well, PP is now 0 plus 10, which is 10. And EP is now 0 plus 9, which is 9. And that's how we get the 17 and the 20, or the 20 and the 17, because it's basically adding to it. So this is actually what's happening. So, I want to make an effort to try and explain things if you're new to this. Otherwise you might figure it out pretty easy. But that's why we're doing itself plus, because it has to carry itself. We can't just say equals PP equals EP. It has to be itself. So it has to keep taking the new value. So the new value is now 10 plus PP and 9 plus PP. And the next one will be 20 plus PP. The next one that we have here, just for example, let's say the next one is a 7, since I've been going 9, 8, 7. The next one is going to be 20 plus 10, because we're going to take this one, it's now going to be 20. So now this is now 20 is the value, plus 10, because we've been doing that every time. And then the EP total is going to be going 17. It's going to be updating it. It's going to be doing 17 plus 7. So then it should come out to 30 and then 24 if I do that right. And let's do that right. Let's check it out. So now that I messed this all up here, remember this is just going to be PP tot plus PP, and this is going to be EP tot plus EP, and I spelled that wrong, so the red line helped me out there. And now I can just copy this and paste this here and paste this here. So if I keep going in that order, now I have 3 of them. What should happen is it should be 24 out of 30 and whatever the percent is. So let's try it out. Let's make sure it works. Okay, let's again just follow the same order where we're doing 9 and then we're doing 8 and then we're doing 7. Okay, so now it's going to be 9, 8, and 7. It should be an 8. It should be an 80. So it should be 24 out of 30 is an 80. That's what it should be. That's why I'm using these simple numbers here. So let's see. You earned an 80 and it's 24 out of 30. So that's working. So that's what's happening. So that's how it's updating. So it's always taking itself and then adding the new points. And so it's always updating. So every time we redefine it, it actually is taking the higher points with it. So it's adding it up here, moving it along, adding it, moving it along. So no matter how many we do here, now if we want to go back and put 5 in again, I'll just copy this and do 2 more. And again, 10, 9, 10, 8, 10, 7, 10, 6, 10, 5. And again, it should be a 70 now. And that's right. 35 out of 50, 70. So that's working. Now, the problem that we have here is we're not identifying things well. We're just throwing in numbers. If you had 20 of these, it'd be hard to keep track. It'd be nice to have something that counts how many there are. Now, we can, because now we know how to do a counter. We know how to do a counter here. We can make this a little bit easier. And I'll even show you a shortcut, because some of you probably know the shortcut where you can use plus equals to do that. But I'll do that in the next video. So in the next video, I'm going to continue with 4b, and we're just going to keep using a counter, except we're going to use a counter to incorporate the number of these. So we know how many there are. We could say you earned a 70 on 6 assignments or something. And we could also say enter, assignment 1, enter assignment 2, enter assignment 3. We'll use assignments or something like that. So we'll do that in the next video. We'll start to kind of identify this stuff a little bit better. So this is certainly using counters is certainly a more efficient way to do it, although we're still doing a lot of copying and pasting, because every time you do something that's copied and pasted, the same thing every time, that's where eventually we'll get into something called a loop, and that way we can put stuff into loops. Now, I know we've done things with lists in the intro class, the intro to computing class, but we'll eventually get to lists at some point. But here, we're trying to be more efficient about our input. So now we're just copying and pasting input, which again is not efficient, but eventually we'll use loops and things like that, so we don't have to do this 20 times. But now, at least it's better. It's certainly more efficient than adding them up and doing EP1 plus EP2 plus EP3 plus EP4, and so on and so on, which is not efficient. So in the next video, we're going to kind of identify things a little bit better.